Oumuamua, try saying that fast 3 times. I can't even say it correctly once. This is going to be a fun one. All I know is that NASA and the world has known about this bad boy for a long time, and until we started thinking aliens were about to take over, well, it wasn't all that interesting. Now that we question whether or not aliens have been watching our every move, given that the US government has finally admitted to UFOs being real in the first place, well, now everyone is wondering if the big thing we found in space could be the work of aliens. Isn't that funny, how things just played out in a way none of us ever thought would actually happen? Welcome to the Roaring 20s, folks. They're talking about a stock market crash, getting a haircut is like bootlegging liquor, and I'm not sure what comparison I can make to aliens being discovered, but you get the idea. Today at OBQ, we got a spicy one for you as we ask, what the is up with Oumuamua? Smash that like button and let's get to thinking. Now, if you've never heard of this thing, then fear not, because your boy's about to give you all the details on this sucker. Your science teacher is going to be so impressed you'll ace the class without having to take a test. See guys, I'm an artsy scientist, rhyming and all. Alright, now on a more serious note, Oumuamua, what is it? Well, no one could say for sure. At one point it was classified as an asteroid, but then upon confirmation it was behaving more like a comet. It was classified as one. However, it wouldn't be long after NASA and other astronomers and scientists studying this thing would simply call it an interstellar object. Shout out Matthew McConaughey. And it made history as the first known interstellar object to visit our solar system. The name Oumuamua comes from the Pan-STARRS team who discovered it on October 19th, 2017. The meaning behind the name is Hawaiian for a messenger from far arriving first. Given its odd properties and being the first of its kind, this space object had a lot of astronomers and scientists stumped, confused, and excited. Scientifically, the object is referred to as 1I 2017 U1 by the International Astronomical Union, but let's be real, Oumuamua sounds way cooler, so moving forward, Oumuamua it is, baby. Alright, so what exactly does this thing look like? It's been referred to as a pancake, a rocky cigar, among other things, which I don't know if all of you guys watching even know what those things are. It's got a reddish hue to it, and it's believed to be up to 400 meters or 1,300 feet long. And it's incredibly elongated, think like Slender Man in space, as some sources are under the impression this bad boy is 10 times as long as it is wide. This is also something that has never been seen before, and again has led to a lot of questions as well as theories. From aliens to just some space junk, we're going to cover it all. Now, whatever this thing is, it seems everyone can agree it's been traveling for hundreds of millions of years through the Milky Way. Now, the incredibly interesting thing about this object, aside from its strange shape, was the acceleration at which it was moving away from the sun. Going about 5,700 miles per hour, no one was truly sure what this object could be made up of, allowing it to move away so quickly from the sun. And going back to its shape, as I mentioned, this thing was 10 times as long as it was wide. Previously, the most elongated objects seen in space were only 3 times as long as they were wide. Safe to say this thing is most definitely alien. Sorry, should I say alien, baby? Let's go. Whether that means it's just coming from another solar system or is the work of an intelligent species is to be determined. But one thing is for sure. Aliens, baby! Now, the wild thing about this sucker is unlike other comets, which have what are referred to as tails in the scientific community, this bad boy didn't. Tails refer to the frozen gases and dust that are often released behind comets which fly close to the sun upon heating up. This gives them that acceleration, almost acting as an engine, if you will. The crazy thing about Oumuamua is that there was no tail, and this thing was moving faster than most other comets, and even faster than I speak, apparently. Aside from that, it came extremely close to the sun, about a quarter of the distance the Earth currently is from the sun, or 0.26 AU, so imagine that. It really stumped professionals and obviously allowed others to question even more if this was the work of another species. Y'all know what I'm about to say. No, I'm not gonna say. Aliens! Avi Loeb, who is a Harvard astronomer known for making some wild claims about aliens, to no surprise was questioning if this new discovery was in fact the work of aliens. I quote him saying, as the data came in, more and more peculiarities came about. He went on to say after attending a conference with a fellow colleague about the discovery, I quote, he said, "This is so strange. I wish it had never existed. It took people out of their comfort zone." And going off the idea there was no tail, Loeb explained, I quote, "That is really the straw that broke the camel's back for me, so to speak. In addition to the sun's force of gravity, there was something pushing it away. In order to explain this, you need about 1/10 of the mass of this object to evaporate." Now, with all that being said, some did have an explanation for this apparent invisible force pushing the object away from the sun. It's a hydrogen iceberg. In other words, as per Daryl Seligman, who works in the Department of Geosciences at the University of Chicago, I quote, "It's a frozen iceberg of molecular hydrogen. This explains every mysterious property about it, and if it's true, it's likely that the galaxy is full of similar objects." Now, it's important to note back in 2019, Seligman and co-author of the new work, Gregory Lawton, worked on a paper which explained why Oumuamua was in fact a comet, albeit a strange one. Around the time the paper was published, Seligman told NBC, I quote, "We are quite confident in our hypotheses, and do not believe that there is a need to rely on alternative, less likely explanations for the non-gravitational acceleration. However, the beauty of science, or anything really, is upon being informed of new information or evidence, your hypothesis can change." And it did. The two men worked on this new paper explaining why their new hypothesis is more accurate than their last. I quote, "We show all of Oumuamua's observed properties can be explained if it contained a significant fraction of molecular hydrogen, H2 ice." Seligman further explained, I quote, "The only kind of ice that really explains the acceleration is molecular hydrogen." The paper expands on the idea of it causing the acceleration, saying, I quote, "H2 sublimation at a rate proportional to the incident solar flux generates a surface-covering jet that reproduces the observed acceleration." And explaining its cigar shape, they wrote, I quote, "Mass wasting from sublimation leads to monotonic increase in the body axis ratio," explaining Oumuamua's shape. In more simple terms, Seligman explained it as the following, I quote, "Imagine what happens to a bar of soap. It starts out as fairly rectangular shape, but as you use it up, it gets smaller and thinner over time." However, not everyone agreed with this hypothesis, as Loeb and his colleagues argued the object wouldn't have been able to remain cold long enough to form a shape the size of Oumuamua. This led some to start leaning more toward the alien theory, and some even started to track the object, which had already passed through our solar system, for radio transmissions. Unfortunately, they didn't receive any, but I mean, it's still pretty cool. Another theory presented by Alan Jackson, an astronomer and planetary scientist at Arizona State University, and his colleague Stephen Desch, is that this is nitrogen ice. Desch said, I quote, "It had to be something nobody had considered before. We just realized that nitrogen ice could supply exactly the amount of push it needs, and it's observed on Pluto." Upon comparing how shiny nitrogen ice is with that of Oumuamua, it appeared they had an almost exact match. Ultimately, they concluded this was potentially a piece of nitrogen ice that may have chipped off of another distant Pluto-like planet. Under the impression it's been floating around deep space for about 500 million years, they believe that explains its shape, and the evaporating nitrogen would have been hard to detect, allowing for the unexplainable push. Jackson said, I quote, "Our atmosphere is mostly nitrogen, and you can see through it. Nitrogen gas is difficult to detect." Again, Loeb argued this claim, explaining that he and his team had calculated for the object to have come from a Pluto-like planet, its surface area would need to be much larger. This would also mean the stars in the galaxy would need to be about 100 times their mass for us to see this nitrogen iceberg. In his own words, Loeb said, I quote, "The surface layer of Pluto is only a few percent of its size, so that just doesn't make any sense." However, as Desch explained, it probably passed through dozens of solar systems within a fraction of a light year, but it wouldn't have survived another trip near a sun like ours, referencing why its shape was still as large as it was. All in all, as you can see, no one really knows what the is up with this thing. It's still so new, there are so many different theories, which, as you can see over the years, have already changed and will likely continue to do so. Should anything change, we'll let you guys know. For now, just know space is, well, space is That's all I'm saying. Alright guys, that's all for this one. I've been your boy Pepper. Stay spicy, and we'll see you guys soon.